Hi, it's Edward, back with another video. Please take a moment to click the thumbs up button below and consider subscribing to the channel. Please also share this video via social media and with your friends via email. Thank you for your support. Today, I read several financial news articles. I've included links to the articles in the description below. I encourage you to read the articles to support the authors and news sources. As a private American citizen, I'd like to report and share my transformative thoughts through commentary regarding small sections of these articles that are of public interest. Today, I read an article on Yahoo Finance written by Rebecca Chen titled, "Home Prices Again Clock In at a Record High in September Despite Higher Mortgage Rates." According to the author, it so far doesn't matter how high mortgage rates go, home prices continue to set record highs. The S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller National Home Price Index increased 0.7% in September from August on a seasonally adjusted basis, making the 8th straight month of growth and an all-time high for the index. Home values were also up 3.9% over the last 12 months, according to the latest data released Tuesday. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the real estate market continues to defy all logic. One would have thought that interest rates in the mid 7% range would have impacted this madness, but it hasn't. From everything that I have read, there are so many people flush with cash right now because their assets have increased in value so much in the past decade and a half. Some of these older Americans flush with cash are gobbling up real estate and driving prices up. Some are even helping their adult children purchase properties, again, driving prices up to crazy levels. Here is what is crazy. The national median home price for resale housing rose 2.8% to $394,300 in September from $383,500 a year ago. Isn't it unbelievable that the median resale house here in America is $394,300? Think about the income needed to purchase a house in that price range. According to Census.gov, the real median household income in 2022 was $74,580. That's the household income. Do you see a disconnect between the median household income and the median resale house price here in America? Now, if you think that is crazy, listen to what the author said about new home prices. According to the author, in September, sales of new construction jumped 12.3% from August, with the median sales price coming in at $418,000. I am not a big fan of most new construction these days. A lot of these new homes are overpriced boxes with builder-grade materials, slapped together, in many cases by warm bodies who are subcontractors of another subcontractor, who is a subcontractor of the original subcontractor that had the contract with the builder. Some of these new home consultants are pretty smooth when they tell buyers that they only build to the highest standards. The reality is, many of the homes have a lot of problems right from the start. Many people don't invest the money to get a whole house inspection. If they did, it could potentially reveal defects that they could get the builder to remedy prior to closing. Having lived during the run-up to the 2008 Great Financial Crisis, the exuberance today in the real estate market reminds me so much of that time period. Back in 2005, 2006, and part of 2007, there was so much optimism in housing, and prices continued to climb, and then it all ended. You couldn't give a house away after that. To me, it's just so weird to have toured vacant foreclosed homes after the 2008 crash that were selling for whatever the owners could unload them for. Now these same properties are selling for multiples of what people bought them for. Some are just 15 years older and the owners haven't made any improvements. Yet, people are fighting over these overpriced dumps. The herd mentality is really interesting. It can really influence people's behavior and can often result in negative outcomes. Let's hope the equity markets stay propped up. If we see a crash in equities resulting in companies laying off human capital in droves, the real estate market house of cards could blow over and be absolutely epic. Now, I'm not predicting that is going to happen, but it is certainly a remote possibility. If we did experience a crash in equities, I believe it could be game over for the hot real estate market. Depending on the source that you reference, about 65% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Many have no emergency savings. When the paychecks stop coming in and not as many companies are hiring, some of these homeowners could be left with few options other than foreclosure. If this were to happen, those who are well positioned could capitalize on some opportunities. For those who are over leveraged, this could spell disaster. Now, on the flip side of the coin, the equity markets may continue to chug along, especially due to all of the optimism surrounding artificial intelligence and all of the optimism regarding the strong consumer here in America. Many are banking on the Fed pivoting and cutting rates in 2024, which could send stocks higher. In my opinion, the Fed and the billionaire elite may do whatever is necessary to keep the markets propped up. The real estate market may continue to set new highs, and those using other people's money to own assets may see their equity positions grow larger and larger year after year. At times, I feel like there is too much optimism in the equity markets and in real estate. Leading up to the Great Depression in 1929, there was a lot of optimism in the Roaring '20s surrounding technology. Back then, people were all excited about automobiles, film, and radio. Well, in the Roaring 2020s, we have similar optimism, but it is surrounding electric vehicles, and instead of film, we have social media and big tech, and instead of radio as a new technology, we have artificial intelligence. Do you see any parallels between now and back then? Radio was the hot new technology, just like artificial intelligence is today. Everyone was all excited about radio, and RCA was the king back then. Now, keep in mind, during that era, you could have access to margin about as easy as someone can open a new crypto account today. The equity markets were the Wild West back then. The Securities and Exchange Act didn't come about until 1934. There was crazy speculation during that era. Back then was quite different than it is today in many ways. We also have circuit breakers in place now. Here's an interesting bit of history for you though. Back on March 3rd, 1928, RCA stock was $77 per share. On December 31st, 1928, RCA stock was $400 a share. There was a 5-for-1 stock split in March 1929, and the stock peaked at $114.75 a share. After the 1929 crash, RCA stock declined and it continued to slide until it reached a bottom of approximately $2.50 per share by May of 1932. Could we ever see some of the high-flying tech stocks today deflate like that? Well, we saw that happen to a certain degree back in the year 2000. Take Yahoo stock as an example. It hit an intraday high of $500.13 on January 3rd, 2000, which made them the most valuable company in the world at that time. And then, after the dot-com bubble burst, we saw Yahoo stock hit an intraday low of $8.02 on September 26, 2001. I'm sure many of you believe we will never again see huge stock declines like the ones that I described, and we will never experience another crash in equities because the Fed will just go back to its playbook and ramp up QE, and voila, crisis averted, and the real estate prices will continue to increase forever. Well, maybe you're right, but what if we experience some type of black swan event and the Fed tries to intervene and the damage control doesn't work? What happens then? Will our society resemble Mad Max? It's anyone's guess. What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Regarding our society resembling Mad Max, I read an interesting article today on foxbusiness.com written by Michelle Ruiz titled "Ram Raiding and Crash and Grab, New Violent Burglary Trend Targeting Brick and Mortar Businesses." According to the author, a group of thieves in a stolen pickup truck slammed into the front of a Seattle boutique shop for vintage and collectible clothing called Rush Hour last week, shattering the front window and running inside to steal their stock. 3 days later, the thieves returned, this time crashing through the storefront with a minivan before pilfering high-ticket items left behind in the first break-in. The author goes on to indicate that this is an example of a crime wave targeting brick-and-mortar stores around the country. The crime, referred to as ram raiding and also crash and grab, depending on where it happens, involves driving a vehicle through a store's front window to break in and loot. Apparently, the Wall Street Journal calls this drive-through burglaries. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is sad to hear about this happening in our great country. My heart goes out to these business owners and the employees that work at these locations, along with the law enforcement personnel who have to deal with all of this. I realize a lot of this may be due to organized crime, but I wonder how much of this is being done by desperate people who feel left behind in the new economic reality in our country. Keep in mind, someone works for these organized crime rings. At one time, these were some mother's little boys or little girls. How in the world did they grow up and get involved with all of this? Are some of these people stealing items so they can get money to buy drugs? The reason I ask this question is because I was burglarized and the individual was eventually caught. He had a meth habit and he sold my personal property to buy drugs. He discussed all of this at his sentencing hearing, which I attended. It is sad to see crime and drugs result in devastation across our great country. On the topic of people doing meth, I read an interesting article today on foxbusiness.com written by Adam Sabes, titled, "Woman on Meth Tries to Open Exit Door After Showing Signs of Anxiety." According to the author, a woman on meth attempted to open an emergency exit door during a Korean air flight Thursday. How scary is that? I am sure glad that I was not on that flight. I am sure many of those passengers were completely terrified. Imagine being up in the air when someone tries to open an emergency exit on a plane. I am so glad that no one was hurt. This just shows you how someone hooked on drugs can potentially impact innocent people. Just like when I was burglarized, I would have never dreamed that my personal property would be stolen by someone hooked on meth. Here's another example of someone suspected of being under the influence of drugs. I read an article today on foxbusiness.com written by Stefan Soros titled, "Disneyland Streaker Arrested After Wandering Around It's a Small World Ride." This happened at Disneyland in California. A man removed all of his clothes except for his glasses and underwear and was walking around in the water in the It's a Small World ride. I went on that ride in California as a child and it was amazing. It was such a special experience to ride on that little boat and listen to It's a Small World and see all of the singing children from around the globe. I feel bad for the parents and children who had their day ruined by this 26-year-old who is suspected of being under the influence of drugs. Even the happiest place on earth is not immune to what is happening in our society. What do you think about the problems in our society relating to crime and drugs? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Please keep in mind that nothing in this video is financial advice or advice of any kind. If you need advice, seek advice from a qualified professional in good standing who puts your interests first and foremost. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to the channel. Please also consider sharing this video via social media or via email with your friends. I want to extend a special thanks to everyone who has subscribed to the channel. I want to also thank all of my channel members. Check out some of the great books that I suggest you consider reading in the description below. I've included Amazon affiliate links to these books. As an Amazon associate, I earn from qualifying purchases. Stay healthy and wealthy. I'll see everyone in the next video.